You know what's crazy about this whole National Guard nonsense? Is that the judge that point blank stopped him from going into Portland, right? The most extensive judicial action we've ever seen against a Title X authority claim, which is hypothetically legitimate, has been from a Trump appointed judge. Think about that. Like, they won't even give him that kind of relief in Chicago. But let me just go through all this National Guard nonsense, what Trump is talking about when he talks about the Insurrection Act and what his criteria for the Insurrection Act is. So we start off in California, right? Trump deploys the National Guard in California, Title X authority, right? There's Title X, Title 32. Title X, they're allowed to protect property, etc. Title X only becomes, you can circumvent posse comitatus with the Insurrection Act if, essentially, you can no longer enforce federal law in that jurisdiction, right? So that's the criteria. So we sent the Guard to California for legitimate purposes, or at least hypothetically legitimate purposes, to protect ICE. What did they end up doing? They ended up doing riot control in a very civilian manner. A judge ruled in the beginning of September last month they violated posse comitatus. That was over. Ruled illegal, whatever. But they did not stop him from going in the beginning, right? Then we come to right now. He had his successes in DC, if you want to call it that, like imposing a military occupation on people who didn't vote for you. It's like not illegal, but highly immoral, highly undemocratic. Not the worst policy, because I couldn't care less about a few hundred more police officers wandering about, but whatever. Then he has this obsession with Oregon and Portland. Portland and Chicago this weekend. That judge, Kiran Immergut, I don't know how to say her name. Trump appointed judge in 2019, I believe middle of 2019, comes in and makes this ruling, doesn't even give Trump the time to appeal. Now he is probably going to get relief from this, to be honest, because the ruling was, it very much jumped the gun, right? Trump didn't yet exceed his authority under Title X. The judge essentially looked at the situation in Portland and said, there is nothing here that can possibly necessitate Title X, so by process of elimination, I'm going to say that you are most likely not going to respect your limits in this authority. That's what an injunction is. It's like, are you likely or not? It's not a complete ruling here. But he is going to probably get an appeal on that. Chicago, they gave him time. They said, we'll give you a few days. So Trump's probably going to send, the National Guard's probably going to arrive in Chicago very, very soon with help from Texas National Guard, right? Back to the Portland thing. This judge had to rule twice. It wasn't only the Oregon National Guard, it was the California National Guard too. He's mobilizing National Guards from other states to go to these cities for no apparent reason. Like, show me these riots that are actually preventing ICE from functioning or truly destroying property in a way that the localities cannot manage, right? You have to not only prove that they're destroying that property, but that you can actually come in there with federal authority, with a nationalization of the Guard, and actually help. Because if you're not going to help, then you're just going to end up doing civilian law enforcement, or you're just going to end up standing around. So Trump said he's going to invoke the Insurrection Act, because this judge, in his words, it's the most extravagant violation of democracy ever, because people voted for me in 2024. How could you possibly do this? I am the executive branch. So he said he was going to invoke the Insurrection Act if, quote, people were being killed. Now, he probably doesn't know what the statute for that is, because he probably doesn't know what the Title X authority is either. It's like in segregation. If a locality or state was not enforcing constitutional rights or federal law, then that's an insurrection. It's a rebellion. There's no difference really between insurrection and rebellion. Inability to enforce federal law, it's all the same thing. It's a usurpation of the authority of federal supremacy. So in that case, he could legitimately appoint, federalize the National Guard, but none of this is legitimate. I don't even know why he's doing it. I could not guess why he's doing that. Like Charlie Kirk wanted, those kind of people, they were at least clear about it. They were like, we want to occupy these cities to bring down the crime rate. Maybe that would work, but it's still illegal. The people didn't vote for that. They can vote for a larger police budget if they wish to. Donald Trump cut, police funding in the DOJ. Look it up. So who's defunding the police now? But is he actually trying to like force people into submission like Gavin Newsom is supposing? I don't know. I think he's just having fun. I think he just likes the power. He's the most powerful executive that's probably ever existed in a modern Western democracy, and besides wartime, right? And emphasis on the modern, but whatever. He just likes doing this stuff. It's probably his narcissism. You can see his narcissism in every single aspect of his policies, right? He loves just being able to set tariffs to whatever rate he wants. He could care less if it's beneficial. He could care less if it's not. Like, look at his foreign policy, Armenia, Azerbaijan. Literally all he does is change the name of a mutual transit route that was like already, in the pipeline. It was an old Soviet pathway, and he just renamed it to Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity. And then he's like, we did a peace deal, right? This is textbook narcissism. I think that both of these cities will end up having the National Guard in them for a while, and then judges will probably rule that they violated Posse Comitatus because they have no legitimate work to do besides suppressing these riots, which aren't actually threatening federal property or personnel, or limiting their ability to work in any real meaningful way. Now, if they do limit their work to just like, accompanying ICE officials, whatever, that would be legitimate. Another thing that Chicago did, I believe, is sign an executive order locally that shut down like every single building and business possible for ICE use. And this is actually within the state's authority, right? They don't have to give any leniency to ICE. They just cannot obstruct them, but they can maintain, property boundaries to the best of their extent in order to limit how much they can operate in Chicago. Now, in my estimation, the sanctuary policies in Chicago are a little bit too liberal. In Chicago, they don't even have exceptions for violent criminals when they get released to get deported. That kind of legislation exists in California in SB 54. Exists in many other sanctuary states except Illinois. Which you can argue, it's like, if a person did a violent crime, they're already going to be in jail for like decades, right? And like, what's the point in deporting like a 70-year-old? That's probably the logic that Chicago does. It's a de facto double jeopardy, really. Deporting people after they get out of jail, but they kind of deserve it. If they're an illegal, they come here, they don't even they choose to commit a crime. I have no sympathy for them, but no exciting news though this weekend. It's been like it's just amnesia, really. It used to be so hard to keep up with the Trump administration, but now it seems it's like getting repetitive, kind of. We're like at least settling into some kind of expected status quo instead of just Trump pulling all the stops all at once and just creating a ton of volatility.